Today's podcast has been sponsored by Assured Fertility, the leading specialist in fixed price discounted fertility plans, and all treatment is provided by leading UK clinics. Their simple and transparent multi-cycle plans offer you a fixed cost for treatment, including IVF, ICSI, egg freezing and egg donation. Assured's packages offer a substantial discount in comparison to paying clinics directly. They even offer plans which give you a partial refund based on early success, so there is no risk in signing up. Assured Fertility's experience-friendly team will advise you on the plans and clinics available and are always on hand to guide and support you throughout your treatment. Taking out an Assured plan is a quick and easy process, and there will be no delays in getting started. Contact Assured today on 0333 234 0895 or visit their website at www.assuredfertility.co.uk to start your IVF journey.
Welcome to another episode of Femme Health Outspoken podcast. In today's episode, we're honoured to have Jenny Wordsworth, from the founder of Ovum, a scientific-led brand that donates a phenomenal 20% of its profits to fertility research. So welcome, Jenny. We're really excited to have you on today. Really looking forward to getting to know you a little bit more. I thought it'd be great if you could just start by talking through just some of the pivotal moments really that led you to creating Ovum and the sort of vision behind the brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me today, Sarah, as well. So I actually started my career as a lawyer in mergers and acquisitions, so big corporate law. And then at the time I was also an endurance athlete for the North Face. Sounds a little bit random, but I did a lot of mountaineering, climbed kind of mountains that hadn't been climbed before, world record attempts skiing solo across Antarctica, all kind of wacky and wonderful things. And loved it, obviously, and also wasn't quite ready to settle down, but thought, you know what, it's fine, because when I do, I know what I learned in school: don't touch a penis. And so when I am ready to touch a penis, and this wasn't the first time I touched a penis, don't worry, it's fine, because you get pregnant the first time you have unprotected sex. That's what I know at the age of I think I was like 34, something like that. So came back from my adventures, and it was time to start trying to conceive, and it didn't happen the first time. And it's quite embarrassing to admit how little I knew about anything. I truly thought the first time I had unprotected sex, I would be pregnant. Fantastic. Planning all sorts for the next 9 months, what's going to happen afterwards. So month one goes by, month two, the months start rolling by, and I'm wondering what is going on here. I was really lucky in some respects because it was COVID. My two best friends are IVF doctors, and I don't know if you remember, right at the beginning of COVID, IVF clinics were shut while they figured out what they could and couldn't do. So they had time, I had time, and I said to them, look, I'm not falling down a rabbit hole on Google. What can I take? What can I do? So kind of like, what's within my control? That's a big thing for me. What was within my control to improve my chances of trying to conceive? That's not going to send me completely insane. Like, I'm not chugging pomegranate juice whilst I'm doing a handstand. Like, what does the science tell us could actually, can or may make a difference? It's not harmful, not dangerous, and isn't too far out there. And they were like, great question. Let's take a look. So we spent that entire summer reviewing every single piece of high quality scientific evidence behind egg health, egg quality, lifestyle changes. And in the end, what we came up with was there was no product that existed that represented the latest scientific evidence. And that's when I got really angry, because if you know how difficult it is to get a scientific study organised, funded, running, ethical approval, to then have that evidence, and then no one is using it to make a product that we can actually take, but what was the point? And so what I found is that other brands are maybe using 10% of the CoQ10 dose that we know can actually make an improvement to egg health. And I got incredibly angry, because there's almost no point taking it. I want 100% of the dose that I know could make an improvement to my egg health. And then kind of as I entered the world of like the trying to conceive community, I found that I felt incredibly protective of women going through this. We put up with so much, we deal with so much, we're very vulnerable. because, you know, I made a joke earlier about chugging pomegranate juice while doing a headstand. You probably would.
Oh,
If you
it's
read
so
somewhere.
true. It's so true. I think I found when I reflect back, I think I lost myself so early in the journey because actually the amount of people telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing and how I shouldn't be doing it was just, it was mind blowing.
Yeah, and the white noise out there is just unbelievable. Um, so I felt very angry, I felt very protective, and that's basically why Ovum was born. I felt like women deserved better. And so it's nothing to do with my past careers at all. It couldn't be more different. But that's how Ovum came to be. So I founded it with the two IVF doctors I mentioned, and it is truly the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah, well, what a great way to approach the pandemic as well, to seize that opportunity in that time to really invest in looking into that and making those changes. And I think, obviously, where you spoke about there, being scientific led is probably really what makes you stand out a lot. And it probably underpins you as a brand, I would say, for everything I've seen and read about you guys. So I'm guessing that was the main driver in the importance of delivering this product, was it's always going to be science based, and that's what the brand is fundamentally based around now. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So the focus from the beginning with that first product, which is the Ovum Time to Conceive supplement, was all about starting with the egg. It was all about egg health. The reason for that, egg quality is the single most important cause of failed IVF cycles, early miscarriage, and age-related infertility. And so that was always the priority. And there's just so little money going into that kind of funding. Like I said before, to not make use of it once it is published is complete madness. And we have a very high bar of the kind of scientific evidence that we'll include or review. So, for example, there's obviously a hierarchy of scientific evidence. So, a human clinical study is a lot more valuable than, say, an animal study. But what we found fascinating was going into clinics. So, Ovum Time to Conceive is now recommended in 21 patient protocols in IVF clinics in the UK, which is a really big deal. I think other companies have tried to get their product recommended in IVF clinics, and rightfully so. It's a very high bar to get that approval from medical teams. But what we found fascinating going in was actually the lack of education from their medical teams around lifestyle changes, supplementation that could help. And a lot of patients are really surprised by that. But the truth is, it's just not what they do. They're IVF doctors. They're on, they're researching mitochondria transfer and and all sorts of things like things like this. Just is not really them. But what we try to explain to them is, for the patient sitting in front of you, that's their whole world. That is literally the only thing they have any control over during the IVF process. So
I think I found it really difficult. It became quite a clinical journey, and it's actually quite a personal life event for you and your partner. And it sort of strips that away when you start to move through the process over a longer period of time. And I found that quite difficult because it was then never exciting anymore, or something I was particularly looking forward to. I think on one of your products, on the pregnancy test, I love that you have that messaging on the package, that it doesn't, define who you are, the outcome of the test. And for me, that was so refreshing to see when you see other products where they may be plastered with images of babies and things like that. It really resonated with me, because I remember going back every month and feeling that way when I was taking a set test, desperately trying to conceive, and the outcome wasn't what I wanted. It's really hard to go through that emotionally. So
it's
I
horrible.
think
Really horrible.
that is fantastic that your products have such a refreshing approach from a scientific but also an emotional
Yeah.
aspect. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's really kind of you to say. Thank you. The with the IVF clinics as well, what they're most impressed by, I would say, is that one of our nutrients, our CoQ10, is
Yeah.
patented. And it's got 5 human clinical trials behind it. And a lot of that was because we wanted to find a new CoQ10 product, because there's so much white noise, especially around CoQ10 and egg health and the
Yeah.
forms to take. Ubiquinol gets a huge amount of press. That's because it's all funded by pharma, and it's the most expensive product you could put into a formulation. And to include that in Ovum would have costed an extra £82
Wow.
per month. Uh, that's just not
Wow.
affordable to anybody. So we now have a product that performs as good as or even better than ubiquinol. And then the other thing that we do that really sets us apart from other brands, I guess, is we do an annual review of the latest scientific evidence. And if anything comes out that meets our bar, that means we should change, update our formulation, then we do that, which is a very expensive business model.
Yeah, it's continual improvement, which is a great commitment to make. But yeah, I was going to touch on that. Your B Corp and 20% donation of profits to fertility research. I think that's a phenomenal offering. So I just wanted to understand the drivers behind that from a business perspective. That's a lot to commit to.
Totally. So it actually used to be 30% that we donated.
Wow.
I'll tell you why we do that. It is simply because it is so fantastic to be able to start your own business. And then what you realize once you started your own business is, hold on, I get to make the decisions around here.
Yeah.
And I want us to donate 20% of our profits. And it's such an amazing thing to be able to do. And it's the same across the board at Ovum. So we have like a fantastic IVF leave policy, which I've used myself last year. I had IVF. And it's just amazing because I get to make all the calls on this. I'm the CEO. I founded the company. And there's lots of ways in this life that we can make money, all of us. I chose to do it this way with Ovum. And I love knowing that we donate 20%. Nothing makes me happier than when we make those donations. I won't lie that some investors don't love it.
I can
imagine. I've been asked, could you just make it 1%? Could you make it 2%? And that's actually why we went from 30 to 20%. That was the compromise. But that is still a substantial amount to donate. And I'm really proud of it. And so this year normally we've donated to things like Tommy's charities or miscarriage support charities across the UK, like Chasing Rainbows. This year we're actually looking more on the science side. So we want to fund completely independently, just hand over the money, study whatever you want. But PhDs into male and female causes of infertility. So actually go back to where there's a lack of funding around scientific research and put the money in there. PhDs are expensive, so it'll take probably a year or two until we can build up the funds to launch that. But yeah, that's why we donate that much money. And the B Corp thing, same again, using business as a force for good. I'm not here just to make a fortune with Ovum for me and investors and everyone else and then disappear. I'm doing something I genuinely love. The team love it. So yeah, we actually got our final B Corp certification 3 days ago.
Well done. Congratulations.
Yeah. We haven't announced that anywhere yet, but it's quite a bit of work to get it, as it should be. But the reason for being a B Corp is everyone should be a B Corp. It's just simply how you should run your business. So yeah, it's all just goes back to the great thing about launching your own business, especially in a space as delicate and emotional and sometimes often traumatic as trying to bring a baby home.
Definitely. I think it's a hard space to be in, especially if you've been on the journey yourself. As I really enjoy what we're doing here at Fem Health, but some days it can be a bit more challenging for me because I'm revisiting that space and those emotions that come with it. So it's both cathartic and challenging day to day, but I think where there's that integrity behind what you're doing and what you've said there from your brand, it really comes across in everything that you're producing. Even the timeline on your website, I thought that was fabulous to share with customers so they really get an understanding of where you've come from and where you are. And I think back to the pregnancy test, which I think again is absolutely phenomenal. The fact that you have created a sustainable one that offers aftercare, I was astounded. Could you tell me a bit more about that? Because I obviously was not using your test, unfortunately, when I was moving through the journey. They weren't about then. And I just think that's such an incredible offering and something so different. And again, so modern and refreshing.
Thank you. Yeah, so that was our second product. And we made that product with 200 women from the Trying to Conceive community. So we have an advisory board made up of women who are trying to conceive. I guess it's to make sure we're always on the straight and narrow and always get their feedback into everything that we do. Even though the entire team at Ovum, we're all either currently trying to conceive or we're in the middle of IVF or we've undergone IVF. So it's not like we've got a clue. We've all been through it, the mill. But at the time, when I was first looking into a pregnancy test, I found an open letter to Clearblue from the Trying to Conceive community, which is published by several journalists. And it was basically saying, hey, Clearblue, like over here, We must be the community that uses the most amount of your product, yet you completely ignore us. All of your advertising, all of your promotion is all about, oh, thank God, I'm not pregnant. Woohoo! Carry on with my day. And that's not what the majority of people using your tests are experiencing or feeling when they get that negative. So it definitely planted a seed. And I just hated the focus that the negative result was the one you were after. The other thing is I wanted to make it fully recyclable, which was incredibly difficult. I'm working on a second prototype now because there's always room for improvement. So yeah, and the guided meditation part with the tests was everything for me. There had to be something that in that immediate moment when you get a negative test result, there's something that helps with that punch to the gut that you get. Because in the lead up to that moment, you were like, oh, I'm being stupid. I bet it's not even going to be positive. But you can't help it. There's that little element that you're like, oh my God, this could be it. This could be it. This could be it. And so something to help when it was a negative and you weren't expecting. We've actually now expanded it based on amazing feedback from the community, which is you also need to have a guided meditation for when it's a positive. Because even once you get a positive, it's not like whip-de-doo, off I go. There's still a lot of trauma depending on your past. So we now have both available. And we also have 4 tests per box, which no other brand does. And again, that is because, as you'll know, when we're trying to conceive, you want to test as early and frequently as possible.
You know you're testing a couple of days early, but you still try anyway. You just do, because it's just that desperation, unfortunately.
I know. And so value for money, 4 in a box, was really important. And then they had to be the most sensitive available. Again, for the same reason we're talking about, we like to test as early as possible before our period is due. And a couple brands recently have been banned from selling in the UK because they weren't publishing the sensitivity of their tests, which is illegal. So we obviously publish our sensitivity. It's sensitivity of 10 MIU/ml. And we're also FDA approved, which is, we're approved in the UK, but the approval process in America is much more stringent than in the UK. So they really take a look at your accuracy rates when you're talking about how accurate your test is in the number of days before your period. That was everything to me. And we don't have plans to launch in America for some time. So a couple of investors were like, well, why are you doing that now? But I wanted to know that we had that. And then we're also cheaper than Clearblue. So a lot of people are making the switch and using our tests, which is amazing.
You say, obviously, with you saying cheaper, like that is actually really important, because I think you spend so much on a fertility journey, and especially if you start pursuing IVF through private routes, it can get so expensive, and every penny does really count. I think value for money is probably not something that's pushed in a lot of fertility products, because the sense of urgency behind wanting to conceive and wanting to use the products sort of outweighs the cost implications of it. And I think, you know, that's so relevant that there's 4 in the pack, and you really thought about that side of it as well, making it cost effective, because not everybody's got loads of disposable income to spend on this, but they want that same outcome. So yeah, I think that's fantastic. And just touching on the IVF side of things, now this isn't something I've personally done on my TTC journey, but I have friends that have been through it, and I think the negative outcomes from IVF can be immense, and having that support there with your test is fantastic. But is there anything else you think you would like to see from what the UK offering is at the moment in terms of IVF support to couples out there using the facilities?
I think I'd like to see IVF clinics focus instead on improving their IVF success rates. So instead of having to go through several rounds of IVF, ideally it's just the one and it works. It's a very, I could do an entire podcast just on this, but it's a very stagnant area of science, is the truth. The problem we do have in the UK is that the majority of IVF clinic chains are owned by private equity. I used to work in private equity. They're very much focused on profits. Again, I could do an entire podcast just about that. And it also, you know, even where your IVF has worked, there can be trauma. Like I had IVF at the end of last year. It worked, it's successful. But there's still, I'm noticing some trauma there just from going through the IVF treatment and you know, having one cycle. Yeah, I definitely like to see more time, money going into improving IVF success rates in the UK. And in terms of support, we work with so many different clinics, and it's astonishing the range of support that you see. Some of my favourite clinics that we work with, they take care of the whole person. And oftentimes it is so simple to get right. It is simply communicating correctly
Yeah.
with the patient. If you say you're going to call them back at this time, make sure you do that on time. And it is not difficult to get these things right. And I think my biggest bugbear in private IVF clinics, they often forget that you are paying for private healthcare. If you were going to Bupa to pay for a new knee, you get treated to these beautiful facilities, molten brown stuff in the shower, amazing communication. And then I've never been able to figure out why you switch to IVF, and some of the treatment is outrageous. One of my best friends went through IVF here in the UK, and she had an absolutely terrible time at the clinic, and it was simple communication, which is not difficult to get right. I was living in the US when I had my IVF, and the support there was outstanding. So quite a different experience, but yeah, there's a huge amount of room for improvement in the UK for IVF, and how it's offered, and the support given.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. I think it's not to be taken lightly, IVF, and I think, like you said, the success rate is actually so relevant. I obviously explored the aspect of that, and I don't personally think IVF is for me. I think it's just a lot to put yourself through, and I don't know whether that's where I'm at with that. But I think, again, the lack of introduction to that I found really difficult, because I was referred on the NHS, but then that was it. Like, nobody actually, the gynecologist wasn't like, okay, so this is what it tends to involve. I had to do a lot of independent research and speak to my friends and figure out that all for myself. So I think, you know, it needs to be a more joined up solution.
And it's so much to put on you, you know, it's so much to put on you as the patient. So much white noise.
And yeah, I think we spoke about this earlier when you were saying, obviously, on your journey, and you know, you just assumed that was it, one try there. I definitely did the same, and was sort of horrified about how little I actually knew about my body, my cycles, getting pregnant. And you know, you think back to your high school education, it really just did not cover it. And it's actually really shocking when you think about it. You know, even now, if I'd not gone through that TTC journey, would I really understand things about my cycle and ovulation and how it all works? So do you think really the education system, there's space now to educate a new generation coming through this process, so they understand that yes, you want to be safe, and you know, you don't want to necessarily be saying, oh, do all these things and it doesn't matter, you won't get pregnant, but there needs to be more of a balance. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I look back now and I wish I'd grown up with at least an awareness of the basics. So not, you know, not terrifying young girls with the idea that, you know, your fertility declines and you're born with all the eggs you'll ever have. But I just wish I'd grown up knowing that, knowing things like when you're born, you have all these eggs, you're not making any new ones. I wish I'd known that the ovary is the fastest aging organ. I had no idea. Wish I'd known about age-related infertility. No idea. Just the basics, rather than don't touch your penis because you get pregnant. So we're actually funding at the moment a book for teenage girls that just teaches them the basics on fertility, and combining that with a school tour. So we're going into schools. And the reason the idea came is through my work on the endurance sports side I was talking about at the beginning. I'm a polar ambassador to the British government. So I go into schools and talk about expeditions and things like that to get them excited about that. So we kind of pivoted on that and thought, why aren't we doing this for fertility? And the schools that are up for it, they just love the idea. They're starting to realise, no, why shouldn't girls be taught about this? I think it comes from maybe when you and I were at school, a time when there was a lot of teenage pregnancies, and the fear was we just got to bring that number down. But things are quite different these days, and we should get the full picture as we're growing up. And I actually used to think, oh, it wouldn't matter if I'd known about fertility growing up, because I still wanted my career, and then I wanted to wait till I got married, and then I wanted to have a baby. And I now realise that's nonsense. If I had at least grown up with an awareness, and in my 20s, rather than just dating guys thinking this is just for fun and doing other things, I might have just looked at them a little bit differently, and you know who I was spending my time with, but also in career. So like, you know, I worked in a huge law firm when I was there. no, like, taking maternity leave was sort of kind of like, whoa, you're taking how long? Paternity leave, no way. And it's so different now. The same law firm that I used to work at now offers IVF insurance, IVF leave policy. So all of those things combined is what leads to a change. But you've got to do it all.
Yeah. It's that joined up thinking again, isn't it? And it's going to take lots of people driving in the same direction to deliver this, really. So I think, just talking about it today on a podcast is just a great step towards raising people's understanding and awareness of some of the changes that do need to happen. So that's amazing what you're going to do in schools. That's thanks for sharing that. I love the sound of that. Is there any other products on the horizon that you can share, or anything else that you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, we're definitely interested in the IVF clinic space, because we have learned so much from working with clinics, seen the good, the bad, the ugly. So that's a big area for us at the moment. We do have, we've just hired male fertility urologists, so male fertility experts, and they are launching with us a male supplement on sperm health, and that has been in the works for nearly a year now. I'm very excited about that. That should be out in the summer. But yeah, that's it for now.
That sounds like an awful lot, to be honest. That sounds absolutely fantastic. Oh, well, thank you so much for spending the time with me today. I've really enjoyed it, and like I say, absolutely, I love your products, but the ethos and the vision behind your brand is outstanding. And I think, women-led brand, it's really great to see the changes that you're making in the fertility landscape.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye.
Today's podcast has been sponsored by Assured Fertility, the leading specialist in fixed price discounted fertility plans, and all treatment is provided by leading UK clinics. Their simple and transparent multi-cycle plans offer you a fixed cost for treatment, including IVF, ICSI, egg freezing and egg donation. Assured's packages offer a substantial discount in comparison to paying clinics directly. They even offer plans which give you a partial refund based on early success, so there is no risk in signing up. Assured Fertility's experience-friendly team will advise you on the plans and clinics available and are always on hand to guide and support you throughout your treatment. Taking out an Assured plan is a quick and easy process, and there will be no delays in getting started. Contact Assured today on 0333 234 0895 or visit their website at www.assuredfertility.co.uk to start your IVF journey.